I'm reading from a novel called 5 Days Apart. It's essentially a love triangle. I think it's a sort of a slightly subtle variation on a love triangle, but if you don't get the subtle variation, then it's just a love triangle. It's set in Dublin. It's told from the viewpoint of David, who is a guy just leaving college, who is shy and socially awkward and lacks any kind of confidence. And his closest friend is Alex, who is essentially the opposite. He's sort of charming and successful in a way that David can only dream of. David, for the first time in his life, actually kind of makes a move on a girl, and then Alex ends up getting her. So that's, in summary, 300 pages just done right there. So the first bit doesn't really do much of an intro. The first time I kissed a girl was when I was 17. I was drunk at a party in the house of some friend of Alex's, and it had nothing to do with me. I was sitting on the couch trying to keep the room from taking off, and a girl sat beside me. She didn't say anything, just kissed me. She pushed me back and lay on top of me, and we just kept at it. I didn't know her name or what she looked like, I didn't care. I was just glad that at last it was happening, and tried to silence the weedy little voices talking about me that might have been in my head. That was like a breakthrough. Over the next few years, there was a succession of girls I met when I was out drinking. I would wander around until I saw a girl that looked as lost as me, and we would move towards each other, smiling, knowing what was going to happen, knowing that tonight, at least, we would have achieved something. We would be like everybody else. There were thousands of people for whom these things didn't come easy. People that had to push themselves and who thought too much about what they should be doing for it ever to be natural. We were lucky to live in a country where being drunk demonstrated your bona fide status as a fun person, a normal, enthusiastic member of society, who would puke and cry and do silly things like everybody else. Drink opened the door, maybe not to the world of your more enthusiastic dreams, but to a place where you could get your head down for the night. Not the French film scenario, approaching mysterious girls in coffee shops and ending up in a shadowy bedroom within the hour. Not the joy of being approached, how much easier that would have been. It seemed like it should be a simple thing, the ability to meet somebody and say something normal, to smile and be friendly and maybe even funny. Sorry, the light. I saw it in Alex from when I met him first. He was fluent and it didn't seem to cost him a thought. By the time we left school, I'd been talking to people the way you're supposed to for 15 years. I tried to set a low bar for myself and still tripped over it. I could barely string a sentence together. Just relax, he used to say to me. Think to yourself, they're as worried as you are. You have no idea how worried I am, I said in reply. You see, he said, you can be funny. With you, I said, what use is that? He did what I wouldn't. He went up to girls everywhere. He spoke to them, smiling, and the words came, the girls responded, because that's what happens when good-looking guys make jokes to girls in the street. I would stand in the background, hovering, watching as they touched their hair, and blushed and laughed, or pretended that they weren't impressed. Sometimes they looked past him at me, made eye contact and shook their heads, smiling. Did he just say what I think he did? Isn't he terrible, they were saying. What a load of charming old shit. I know I would set back, pure bullshit, always wondering if they would see through it, knowing they never would. Later the same girls would move closer, drawn into him. I don't think they even knew they were doing it, until eventually they were in his space, their attention on him fully now, and he would speak to them as if he had known them forever. I'd heard what he said. It was nothing much, simple stuff. They were just words, an implication of intimacy, a question that got bigger as soon as you thought about it, an over-the-top compliment. Once or twice I tried to have the same approach, the same casual tone, the same feigned indifference. I couldn't do it. At best I was cryptic, more often leery, lechy, cocky, rude, and once it started to go wrong, there was no getting it back. I would walk away huffing and puffing, face burning. I realised then that it wasn't just what I had said that made them respond, but much more. I didn't have it. I had other gifts that maybe he would have wanted. I could get a job anytime. I had math, programming skills. He told me about them, even when I said I didn't want to know where they went and what they had done. It all seemed so thinking and easy and fun. They never lasted more than a week or two, and when he finished with them, they vanished from his life. This last one he had told me once, do you know what you wanted me to do? I don't care, I said, I don't want to know. Filthy, he said. I almost didn't do it. That one he said wasn't the word. Why are you telling me this? I asked him. You know it upsets me. You want to know, he said. You need to know what's out there, what you're missing out on. Why, I asked him. Why do you need to tell me? What good is it to me? Are you trying to make me unhappy? I'm trying to get you off your arse, he said. I'm trying to get you out there. You should use what you have. You're a good-looking boy. The last one said it to me. Thought she might have a friend for you. No, she didn't, I said, trying to sound sceptical, but not able to hide the hope. She did, she said again, smiling at me, turning on the charm like I was one of them. So I said, what did you say? Well, it's not going to happen now, he said. She's gone now. It's not the point at all. The second section is Alex, David, as I said, finds a girl that she likes, and Alex immediately moves in. And David storms off in a state of outrage. And he gets a job working in a bank, and because Alex is basically his main kind of access to social life, he's spending a lot of time on his own. I went for walks. Even if I wasn't talking to other people, it was still better to be around them. I cycled to the park. Every evening there were thousands of people doing things together on the pitches and the paths and across the fields into the trees, playing sports and jogging and walking dogs, flying kites and taking photos of deer and chasing each other, families having barbecues and picnics, gangs of people drinking, picking each other up. All these enterprises constructed so that people could be together outside in the evenings if nobody wanted to be at home. A couple of times a week I would go to the cinema after work and watch whatever was starting at the time. Being on your own at a film was better, I thought. I listened to the people around me, eating too loud, talking into phones, laughing at the same ads they saw on television every day. The unbalanced couples where one person didn't have the same brain power or interest or hearing as the other. Who is that? Who is he? What did he say? This thing is fucking Chinese. The film ruined for them both. I thought about personal ads. I could meet someone different and forget about Camille, someone from another life altogether who would remind me of her. I looked at websites in the evening paper. There were hundreds of girls in Dublin looking for the right kind of man. Hundreds. They were very specific about who they were and what they wanted. Non-smoker, social drinker, good sense of humour. Relaxed, easygoing, honest, bubbly, vivacious, cuddly, up for a laugh, like cinemas, meals, animals, theatre, the outdoors, the arts. Seek similar. They all sort of similar, as if Dublin was full of easygoing, humorous people trying to find each other. It felt like that to me. So lots of uptight, anxious, hassled people trying to avoid each other. Was I up for a laugh? What did that even mean? Water greens and clown shoes. And who was I anyway? 24-year-old male, shy, uncomfortable in his own skin, may or may not have hidden depths, trying desperately to avoid hanging around with best friend and his girlfriend with whom he is in love. Better if you don't look like her, should be capable of disappearing immediately if circumstances change. Good sense of humour, you'll need it. Summer passed by. It was easier to feel optimistic when the sun shone, when the smell of the sea came when the smell of the sea came into town, carrying the gulls flashing white and screaming, getting the accent right as they looped above. Where else would you be, a taxi driver said to me one Thursday evening, on my way home after work, as the pink light bathed everything and made it look the way it should. The two of us plugged into our roles, the working stiff heading home, and the old rogue trying to think of versions. I felt the joy of the suit. It made me one of a group, an office boy, a dad and monkey, nothing to distinguish me from anybody else with an ID on a chain around my neck. I saw my tie and other guys every day, people I must have had something in common with to choose the same thing, a shade away from absolute conformity, the same level of pointless resistance, the same shoes, too many people doing the same thing to even try and be different. Disappear into the dull comfort of belonging, the same sandwich for a week at a time, then change. People like me everywhere, in shirt sleeves, all purposeful, trying to convey that your two pay rise are better off than you look. The coffee shops where the nicer looking girls went, where we sat on rickety stools and waited for something to happen that never did. Standing sometimes with the smokers gathered at the front of buildings, facing different directions, hiding behind great pillars in ones and twos, but everybody always plotting, even on their own. When I'm in charge, it'll be different. When I get out of here, I'll be happy. When I go back up, I'm going to tell them. This new part of town that could be anywhere with all the languages and the gyms and the coffee cups and juice bars, international shorthand for nowhere. The buildings piled high around us, trying to tell us they were going to be there forever. the cleaning company vans in the evening, unloading the men and women who made sure that nothing ever looked different, the green bins, the wine bars, the dead unhappiness of the midweek pubs, stuck down here as if you were on a business trip somewhere grim, drinking your per diem. Because this was another country. Going back home was a trip 500 yards across the road into a no-man's land populated by street drinkers and tourists gone wrong, then back across a bridge into town, away from this affectation that still tried too hard, not believing in itself, as if in the morning it might be gone when we all arrived, disappeared, just waste ground where we had thought we were. 15,000 people looking at an empty space in silence, but inside we would all be thinking the same thing. I never believed in it anyway. I always knew this would happen.